My name is Ursula Crown. I'd like to share with you what the Lord has done in my life. It's very dangerous to ask somebody my age, tell us what the Lord has done in your life, because there's just, do you have 5 or 6 hours? Well, I won't do it that long. I could tell you about the early years in East Germany. I could tell you about what life was like between 6 and 10. I could tell you about the 42 years we were married. What was life like with 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and there's a great-grandchild now too. God has done many things. He has prevented many an accident while driving. We've had accidents and He spared our lives. God has been so good. There were many financial struggles He helped us through. But I'm not going to dwell on that as much as I'd like to tell you how I got to know Jesus, how that love for Him birthed in my life. Between the ages of 4 and 6, there were 2 ladies that decided to teach the children on the front lawn of a huge Lutheran church, which was only serviced by a pastor once a month, and the congregation inside that church was a whole lot smaller than the group of kids outside. We also went to their house because we really wanted to hear the stories of Jesus. When I was 8 and a half, we lived in a town where again somebody held a VBS service in a small chapel because we couldn't go to the church in the next city because it was too far. There again, we learned about the love of Jesus and the stories of Jesus. Half a year later, we moved again, and the pastor in that church invited a very vibrant person to have revival meetings for 2 weeks. He was born to German parents in Indonesia. They were missionaries there, but now was semi-retired in New York City. He was a lively speaker. By the time the 2 weeks were over, my dad had an address from him of a pastor in Windsor, and he sponsored us. And in 1957, we came over. He and the church congregation embraced us with their love, and before long, we all dedicated our lives to the Lord. We had come to Canada in May, and that summer was our first exposure to Bethel Park, and that was always a highlight of my life and a renewal part of my life, and it still is. Another important part of my life in my Christian growth was the teen years I spent in our church in Sarnia. The adults there were very intent on just helping us grow and helping us learn how to worship. They taught us how to play instruments so that we can praise the Lord with our instruments. We were active in everything from setting up chairs to helping in the worship service. We played our instruments even when we weren't very good yet at worship time. Anytime anybody had a birthday or anniversary, we all brought our instruments and we had to sing along every time. Very similar to that, what's going on in the Saturday night services right now. And I know that was such a growing time in my spiritual life. It was soon after that, I moved to London, and that's when Whittled and I became partners. I'd known him for quite a few years, but not well, and God used some very unusual ways to get us together to notice each other. But that story is way too long to tell here, so if you want to know, you can always ask me. Anyways, I'd like to skip ahead now and talk about God's keeping power for the now. 10 years ago, when Whittled got very, very ill, God did a real miracle too. When the doctor told him he only had a few days left at the most, he wasn't very upset. He just kind of looked at the doctor, and as soon as the doctor left the room, he said to me, "Well, he's not going to tell me when I'm going to die. It's not going to happen yet." And as soon as he said that, his color changed dramatically. He just looked so different. The color came back in his face. But what was most noticeable was we were suddenly engulfed by some very unusual peace. And I suddenly understood the term, the peace that passes understanding. Peace that is just totally unnatural in the circumstances we were in. And that peace carried us through the next 6 weeks, which we had. During those 6 weeks, We made so many great family memories. We were able to deal with it, and God gave peace. But you know, that peace still has not left me. I can't worry about the future. I can't do it. The peace just won't let me. And God has been so good. I have a beautiful home I live in now. I have a job that I love. But one of the things in conclusion I want to say to all of you who work with kids and youth, don't be discouraged when it looks like you're not having an impact, when it looks like you can't see the fruit of your labor. Because you know, the seeds that were sown in my heart when I was very, very young gave me that God assurance. I always knew that God was there and He was always watching over me. It never left me. And He sent all different kinds of things throughout my life to confirm that. So keep sowing the seed, and remember, children's hearts are very, very fertile. God bless, and may you know the peace that I do.